And now up next, we eagerly anticipate our next presentation, where we'll delve into the fascinating world of tokenization of real-world assets. To guide us through this intricate topic, we have the privilege of welcoming a true expert. Everyone, please join me in extending a very warm welcome to Mr. Claus Skaaning, who is here to share his profound insight on this transformative subject. Mr. Claus has a PhD in computer science and has worked as a researcher and technical lead for HP before founding his first company, Dezide. He is the CEO at the moment of DigiShares, Inc. Everyone, put your hands together for a very, very warm round of applause.
Thank you. Welcome everyone. Thanks for coming here today. My name is Claus. I'm the CEO of DigiShares. I'll be speaking about tokenization from a practitioner's perspective, I would say. We've done many projects around the world and we have a global overview, and we know a lot about how the industry is actually developing, how tokenization is being done today, how you can get value out of it already now, even with pieces of the ecosystem still missing. So first, a little bit about DigiShares. We are one of the leading providers of solutions for tokenization. We provide a white label end-to-end turnkey solution that allow you to get your own solution to tokenize your own real estate, real-world assets. It can be any kind of asset. It's asset agnostic, so it can be real estate, it can be collectibles, rare art, investment funds, jewels, and so on, but primarily it's real estate. So the solution facilitates investor onboarding, KYC, whitelisting, minting of tokens, share cap table management, corporate actions of different types, and also trading, internal trading. It's a highly customizable, configurable solution with open APIs. We provide a large number of integration options so you can get exactly the configuration you want. You can actually run the system totally without crypto and tokenization. If you prefer to have fiat-based payment, that's also an option. We always work with legal firms as partners to ensure compliance for our clients. This is extremely important, right? We have 150 clients in more than 40 countries, so we have a large network of legal partners around the world, including here in the UAE, where we also can assist on the legal side in order to make sure that you are compliant and can sort of navigate through the legal framework. I could mention also briefly here that, of course, everything that we do, every time you tokenize, fractionalize real estate, it becomes a security. There's no avoiding it. You cannot tokenize real estate and turn it into a utility token. It's always a security. So we are within securities regulation, which is actually a safe place to be, because then we know exactly what regulation we need to follow. And it also means that regulators are pretty happy about what we're doing. The SEC, especially in the US, they want everything to be a security, so we are really on the safe side. Also, I would like to announce that we are soon launching a real estate exchange, the world's first blockchain-based exchange for real estate, scheduled for launch in the US in Q4, called realestate.exchange. That will be a retail-oriented, peer-to-peer, wallet-to-wallet trading marketplace, an order book marketplace to begin with. Yeah, so I think I've said everything here. I will not go through it again, but of course, white label issuance platform allowing you to tokenize your own assets, and an exchange coming up soon, initially in the US, later in Europe, possibly here longer term. Order book version to begin with, because that's the easiest to understand for the regulator to get licensed. Longer term, an automated market maker version of the exchange with liquidity pools, so it becomes more DeFi native. But that's longer term, because it's much more difficult to understand what kind of licensing framework you need to fit into in order to get it licensed. So briefly, what is tokenization? I think you've heard a lot about tokenization here today, so I will go briefly over this. Tokenization is, of course, something that happens on the chain. It's basically the act of, or the process of, representing ownership rights of some kind of underlying asset or some kind of security with a token on the blockchain. So it can be done in different ways. You can represent different types of securities with tokens. You can represent many types of different assets But the typical way that we do it, 95% of all our clients are basically tokenizing shares in the entity, in the legal entity that owns the underlying asset. This is the easiest to do from a regulatory and legal perspective. The regulator understands it. It's a recognized framework. They know what shares and equity are. There's a lot of legislation around it. We just have to follow that. And then also from an investor perspective, it's much more comfortable, trustworthy for them to get a tokenized share. They can understand what that is, rather than getting some kind of profit share, revenue share, or investment contract that's built around an underlying asset. So, so that's typically the way it's done, but it doesn't mean that it can be done, and it can't be done in other ways. But that's sort of the most well understood way. You may ask, why don't we tokenize the title or the deed directly of the real estate property? And in fact, it has never been done before anywhere in the world, as far as I know. And it's due to the fact that it's normally quite difficult to integrate into the land title registry. Often they are not digitized, so you cannot really sort of automate and digitize the process around trading fractions of a title or a deed. And also you would need to build some kind of sophisticated, advanced investment contract on top of the title or the deed, which would be difficult for investors to understand. It would be possibly very different from shares and equity, bonds and so on. So it would be not very comfortable for investors to have to invest into such a situation. There are many benefits with tokenization, and tokenization, of course, is a relatively new concept that has been sort of known for the last 4 or 5 years, and has been promoted quite a lot by us, and has also been quite hyped, I would say, to a degree over the years. But we see tokenization really as an infrastructure technology similar to the chain, the blockchain itself. So in a few years, maybe 5 years from now, we will no longer be talking about tokenization, security tokens and so on, but it will rather be an infrastructure that everyone will be using. So it'll just be the normal day-to-day work of doing things, and this is according to the projections also that we see from industry experts. So with tokenization, of course, you can digitize, modernize, automate any kind of workflow related to securities transactions, the subscription process where investors buy into the asset or the investment opportunity, trading where we can facilitate a completely automated peer-to-peer trade between two counterparties without counterparty risk, and also distributions, for instance, payment of dividends can also be fully automated. So the first sort of use case and value proposition is a reduction of cost and reduction of administrative back office cost, you could say, and in turn with that also reduction of human errors that can be made, because everything will be digitized and automated. So this is a use case that can immediately be achieved by anyone in this space and will result in quite significant cost reductions. This second use case then, the second value proposition is that due to the high degree of automation that can be achieved, you can handle 10,000 investors as easy as you can handle 100 or 10. And that means that you can of course fractionalize to a much higher degree than you can today. So you can reduce the ticket size, which is typically from 100,000 upwards down to maybe 100 or 1,000. Many of our clients are doing this, and that helps them of course to reach out to retail investors, but it also helps them to reach out to accredited investors, professional investors and so on, because they can invest with smaller amounts and diversify in a larger number of projects. Third value proposition, and maybe the most important one for the tokenization space, is that we can turn an asset into a liquid, tradable asset. That's actually really easy to do with blockchain-based application. It's one of the major innovations that you can make this kind of peer-to-peer, smart contract-based atomic swap, where you make sure that both directions of the trade are executed or none of them, right? So you are sure that you will not get into a situation where someone pays for something and don't receive it. It's 100% impossible to happen. So you can do that with a blockchain-based application such as ours. So you can trade USDC stablecoin, for instance, for tokenized real estate, and you can be absolutely sure the transaction will occur without counterparty risk. So that's one of the main innovations, and you can do it outside the banks, outside the exchanges, outside the financial ecosystem. You can do it in a software application like we provide. You can do it as just a kind of internal settlement between two counterparties within your shareholders. You can also do it as, of course, as a part of an external marketplace on an exchange, a regulated exchange, such as the one that we are launching later in the year. That turns real estate into a liquid asset. That's extremely important. It's mentioned here below. Something you can see. So if you make an asset liquid, it becomes worth 20 to 30% more, simply due to the fact that it's more attractive to investors. If you have two otherwise identical assets that you can invest into, one is liquid, the other one is illiquid, everyone will choose to invest into the liquid one because then they have the option of liquidating their investment anytime over the years instead of have to wait for 7, 8, 9 years, which is typically the case for any kind of real estate investment project. So basically, you can get full control and flexibility over the process, much more than you could in the past. You can automate to a high degree. You can reduce costs, reduce human errors. You can make your asset liquid into a liquid object or liquid asset, which makes it worth 20 to 30% more on the average. You can open up for retail investors because you can fractionalize, and you can actually also make your assets more attractive to institutional investors. Generally, institutional investors are not very interested in illiquid assets, so if you make your asset liquid, they will also come to a high degree. Finally, the last point is really a bit like the holy grail of the tokenization ecosystem. Longer term, once we have turned real estate into a sufficiently liquid asset class, you can also use it as collateral for DeFi lending. So instead of going to the bank, waiting for weeks, going through a complicated due diligence process, you can with a few clicks of the mouse, put your real estate-backed tokens into a DeFi lending contract and pull a loan basically in a very short time that is highly competitive, provided by DeFi users who are eager to get some kind of yield on their investment, right? So this will become possible, I think, within a year or two, once we sort of reach the next milestone of making sufficient amount of real estate liquid. In the right side, you see sort of the two major trends that we are following in the tokenization space and that we like to see is increasing. The first one is the number of sort of private individuals, retail investors that are investing into real estate and see it as an attractive asset class. It is increasing sharply, as you see. Right now it's driven by REITs, real estate tradable investment funds, but hopefully in the future, real estate tokens, real estate tokenized tokens will continue the trend upwards, right? And this trend means that when you have tokenized your real estate property, there will be a larger and larger group of investors that know what it is and know what it is to invest into real estate and view it as an attractive asset class. The second trend here is the number of active wallets on the chain, which is also increasing sharply, has been for many years. It's sort of following the internet adoption. The combination of these two trends means that tokenization will become easier and easier to do and will become more and more natural for the global population to use. It is a really exciting industry to be part of. Over the last year or so, we have seen many of the large financial firms getting into the space. They are also interested in tokenization due to the fact that they can sort of also digitize and automate their internal processes. They have huge internal administrative costs that they want to reduce to become more competitive, but also they want to fractionalize. For typical private equity funds, the typical minimum ticket size is $1 million. They also want to fractionalize and go down to maybe $50,000 as ticket size. And overall, they want to make their private equity funds, investment funds, and so on, they want to make them liquid, both internally, so it's easier for them to trade and settle internally, but also to get them listed on exchanges. So they see a great value in the tokenization space and have come out with many sort of important messages and statements lately. So it's Citibank projecting 80 growth over the next few years to a value of $4 trillion. But it's also KKR, BlackRock, Hamilton Lane, and many other of the big financial service providers that are getting into the space. So real estate, of course, is the world's largest asset class. It's 326.5 trillion US dollars. It's a huge asset class, but it's also an asset class that is almost totally illiquid and inaccessible for normal investors, right? So about 1% of global real estate is inaccessible, or is accessible, and is liquid, traded in the form of REITs on exchanges, right? So it's really ripe for disruption. There's a lot we can do in the tokenization space to open up real estate for other types of investors and to also make it liquid. Retail investors, they are not invested into real estate today to any significant degree, but they are sitting on 40% of global wealth. Institutional investors, they are also not really invested into real estate today, but they're sitting on half global wealth. We can open up to these two types of investors. So of course that should hopefully longer term make real estate into a much more attractive asset class, and also make it make a lot more money flow into real estate as an asset class. Here are 3 use cases from our group of customers that I have chosen to present here today. The first one is a very simple use case where you use tokenization and our system for process optimization and reduction of administrative cost. So you simply manage investors, share cap table, investor onboarding, KYC, internal trading and stuff like that, payment of distributions using the system. Marco Polo Exchange, a broker-dealer in the US, is using our system in that way. The second use case here is for fundraising. This is really what most tokenization use cases is about right now, I would say. So companies using tokenization to facilitate the investment process. Just tokenizing an asset doesn't make it much more attractive to invest into. So of course the asset has to be attractive in its own right, but then actually tokenizing it will make it's possible for you to reduce costs, to automate, to fractionalize it, to make it liquid, right? So it becomes more attractive to investors. A lot of our clients are using the system in that way, and Equito here in Spain is one example. They have built a mobile app on top of our backend, and they are facilitating investments down to 100 euros for retail investors to invest into prime quality Spanish real estate. And they are also paying out distributions in crypto using the system. So this is really the new type of scenario. The last case to the right is Market Space Capital in the US. It's a real estate developer in Texas with I think 400 million US under management. They've tokenized a property, a multifamily property in Dallas, and they tokenized on our platform and then listed it on exchange. So they got the full value proposition. They got the trading, the liquidity, and the automation. And actually over about 1 year after the asset was listed on the exchange, it was worth approximately 20% more, sort of underlining the value of sort of making an asset liquid and hence more attractive to investors. Tokenization is also important in relation to ESG and sustainability. There's a number of areas where we can actually, as an industry, do good. We can improve conditions on what they are today. We can reduce energy. We can use chains that are less energy demanding, of course, but we can also democratize. We can create equal access to invest into assets such as real estate. We can open it up to poor people, the middle class, globally, allow them to understand that real estate is an attractive investment that they can use to diversify and to protect their savings, even possibly in some cases avoid or escape poverty, and longer term closing the wealth gap to some degree just due to tokenization. So I think democratization is really one of the underlying key values of tokenization. The last element here is on the governance side, where of course everything you do on the chain is just much more transparent, trackable, and can be sort of easily audited and reviewed and so on. So it's a great technology for auditors, accountants, tax people and so on, because it's very hard to cheat, to do fraud and to do corruption. So all of that should decrease as well as tokenization is rolled out as a global infrastructure. That's really my presentation. So there's a number of ways to interact with us if you are interested in learning more. So we have a stand in the other end of the conference hall here today. We typically work with our clients as white label partners, so they sign up as white label software agreements with us, so they get their own platform that they can use. We guide, we customize, we advise on how to use the system. We have a reseller program as well that is attractive. We are doing a funding round, just announced on Republic 2 days ago. Republic in the US, a crowdfunding round. And we are also always looking for strategic partners so we can better establish ourselves in different regions. It's easy to reach us. I'm available on LinkedIn, Telegram, WhatsApp, and so on, and you can easily find us. We do also a lot of events. Often we have webinars, master classes, and so on, and we are happy to discuss with you. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much.